love you.
Children are cute and cuddly. At least a majority of kids are. But then there are some rare bad kids who commit crimes or do things that are just nightmarish. It only goes to show that it does not matter how old you are. Anyone can commit a crime that can place them in jail for the rest of their life. For that reason, today's video is an informational video where we look at 10 of those guilty kids and how they reacted to their sentences in prison. Number 10, Cameron Herron. An 18-year-old Cameron Herron was behind the wheels of a Ford Mustang, reportedly on an illegal race, and ended up hitting and killing a mother and her baby on Bayshore Boulevard in 2018. Cameron was sentenced to 24 years in prison, while John, the man he was supposedly racing with at the time the deadly crash happened, pled guilty and received a 6-year prison sentence. This crime took 2 beautiful lives and left 4 families broken, according to the state attorney, Andrew Warren. No sentence can repair that damage or bring back the lives lost, but we hope this outcome delivers some comfort and closure for Jessica's and Lilia's families. Throughout the eventual conviction and his sentencing, Cameron Herron had a stoic look, out of shock, pain, or regret. Nobody can tell, as he was on a black face mask which covered half of his face. So on count 1, the court is going to adjudicate the defendant guilty and sentence him to 9 years in Florida State Prison, sentence him to 15 years Florida State Prison, and that will run consecutive to count 1 for a total 24 years in the Florida State Prison, the judge concluded.
On count 2, same charge, sentence him to 15 years Florida State Prison, and that'll run consecutive to count 1 for a total 24 years Florida State Prison.
Number 9, Samantha Grigg. Samantha Grigg was supposed to walk across a high school graduation stage that spring, but instead she walked into a prison after a judge ruled that she will spend between 6 and 15 years in a cell instead of the next 4 years in Eastern Michigan University classrooms. 18-year-old Grigg could barely hold her head up as she heard Clinton County trial court judge sentence her to prison for the death of a Michigan State University student, Dustin Frolka, age 19. Miss Griggs pled guilty to manslaughter and unarmed robbery charges through tears as she apologized for her role in the homicide. She said she never really meant him any harm, although she knew she was driving 2 people to a robbery. He was a fellow musician, Grigg continued, her voice catching on emotion. It really breaks my heart, and I wish I could take it back every day. I would like to extend my deepest remorse to the family of the victim.
I would like to extend my deepest remorse to the family of the victim. He was a fellow musician. It really breaks my heart.
Number 8, Chris Young. Chris began selling drugs as a teenager and was arrested during traffic stops at the age of 18 and 19, and then convicted in state court. In an instance, he was convicted of drug possession of less than 7 grams of marijuana and cocaine with a firearm, and in the other, possession of less than ½ gram of cocaine. The court sentenced him to probation and no prison time. His convictions branded him as a felon with grave consequences. He later was found guilty of conspiracy with intent to possess and distribute 500 grams of cocaine and 280 grams of crack, intent to distribute within 1,000 feet of a high school, felon in possession of a firearm, and knowingly possessing a firearm in furtherance of a drug trafficking crime, all of which led to his mandatory life sentence. Despite the sentence, Chris remained positive and strong. He even gave a speech at his trial, talking about how much he reads and generally wants to be a better person.
But I pushed it out of my mind, and I looked at the bright side, and I stayed optimistic.
Number 7, Fernando Salgado. Fernando Salgado is an 18-year-old Californian student who calmly pled not guilty to the 2 charges related to separate classroom incidents at A.B. Miller High School, but he broke down in hysterical tears in the Fontana Superior Court when he was ordered to remain in jail until July 9th. With his bail set at $30,000, Salgado kept yelling, "Get me out of here. Get me out of here. I want to go home so bad." He cried out to his family and friends who had arrived in the courtroom to support him. He was putting on a green jumpsuit, which is an indication that he was in protective custody. His appearance in court followed that of his teacher, 27-year-old Emmanuel de la Rosa, in connection with alleged physical attacks on 2 students. Number 6, Alex King. This young boy, Alex King, became friends with his neighbor, Ricky, who was a lot older than him. They were reportedly doing illegal activities together, and with Alex being very young, he did not know what he was doing was wrong. One day, Ricky told him to go do something horrific, and he did exactly that. Alex killed his father. While he was testifying, he seemed so well-spoken that it is really horrible to imagine this happened. He was then sentenced to 7 years in prison with parole after 6. The murder of his father, Terry King, occurred on November 26, 2001. Terry Lee King was a resident of Cantonment, Florida, United States, and was bludgeoned to death.
Did you develop a relationship with Ricky Chaps?
Yes, sir.
Number 5, Antonio Barbo. The 14-year-old Antonio from Wisconsin was sentenced to life in prison for killing his 78-year-old great-grandmother with a hatchet. He must have regretted what he did, because in the courtroom he starts breaking down after hearing his sentencing. It was so sad that his attorney even began crying as well. Neither of them could speak because they were crying so much. Antonio appeared too overwhelmed to even read his own statement, handing over his handwritten notes to his attorney. This goes to show that he is genuinely remorseful for what he did, and he will reportedly be eligible for parole when he is 50 years old.
Many other people that I'm a cold, heartless, careless killer.
Number 4, Nehemiah Griego. Nehemiah Griego is a boy who murdered his entire household in cold blood and was sentenced to juvenile detention where he'd receive psychological treatment and rehabilitation until he was 21 years old. At 15 years of age, Griego took the life of his family, including his parents and his younger 3 siblings. It is hard to believe that at 15 years of age, he had the will or the urge to not just take his 3 younger sisters' lives, but to take his mother's and father's lives as well. He also gave up his own life and is going to be behind bars forever. This is because the prosecution team is working to keep Nehemiah behind bars for a life sentence when he gets released at 21 years of age. Griego's elder sister, Vanessa Lightbourne, has made it clear that she does not want her brother out of jail. Fearful of the statements he has made in custody, he didn't seem to have any remorse for what he did.
Even the worst of us can make progress. Even the ones that have been through hell and back can still make it.
Number 3, Conrad Schaefer. A judge had sentenced an Osceola County teen who pled guilty to having murdered 2 people during a weeks-long shooting spree earlier in 2013 to 2 life sentences. Conrad Schaefer, who was 18 when he was finally tried, pled guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder in exchange for other charges being dropped. Schaefer was 15 at the time when investigators say he killed David Guerrero, age 17, an Osceola High School student who was on his way to catch the bus for work at dawn on June 26, 2013 in Kissimmee, and Eric Rupnarine, a 22-year-old college student and club promoter, at his home. Conrad tried to keep a remorseful face as he apologized to the family, stating he was 15 at the time and that he was really sorry. The family of the victims didn't accept the apology at the time, however.
Do you have any questions about the possible penalties you're facing in these cases? No, Your Honor.
Number 2, Damon Kemp. A 19-year-old Damon Kemp met a police officer investigating a home invasion at the Jade Park apartment homes and told him he had killed his friends without an address. 15 hours later, police found out where Kemp had lived and drove there to discover the bodies of Trey Ingraham and Jordan Payton, both shot multiple times. Damon Kemp, who faced 2 counts of second-degree murder, was screaming, "God, God, God," very loudly and repeatedly with a face in distress as he was wheeled on a wheelchair after he was denied bond.
God! God!
Number 1. TJ Lane. TJ Lane, who was a teenager convicted of ending 3 students' lives at a high school in Ohio on an anger rampage, had been sentenced to life in prison without parole. The judge noted Lane's obvious lack of remorse and motive as part of the reason for his sentencing. When TJ Lane opened fire at the Chardon High School, his goal was to kill someone he thought was a romantic rival, but he ended up killing 3 students and wounding 3 others. He appeared in court wearing a white t-shirt with the word "killer" boldly written over it. He also gave the courtroom the middle finger during the hearing.
Saying to pull the trigger to kill your son, you know, masturbates to memory. Love you.
If you want to see more videos like this, please turn on all notifications and subscribe to the channel. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.